What's going on, guys? My name is Joe. This is the Duel Factory, and in this video I'm going to bring you a deck profile of the Eldlich deck I took to the Mystic TCG case tournament about a week ago. This was during the YCS, so the attendance wasn't as large as possible, but I decided to take Eldlich and I replaced the DPE engine with the branded engine, so I figured I'd show you the update on that deck. We played 5 rounds of Swiss. I ended up going 3-2 and I made 10th place, so I missed top 8 by a couple slots. But I really like the changes in the deck. It actually made my tier limit matchup very, very good. Or not very good, but a lot better. And then I wanted to go ahead and showcase it to you guys. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and get into the actual deck profile. So not like a ton has changed, but enough has changed for me to show it to you. So we're still playing 2 Golden Lord. You definitely have to play 2, especially now with the Bastille cards. And you'd think it make like the matchup really hard, but as long as you don't like play like, I don't want to play like say poorly or anything like that, but as long as you don't play in to DD Crow effects and like Bastille cards, you'll be just fine. We're still playing the Dogmatica cards and 1 Ecclesia, 1 Fleur-de-Lis. There's an argument to cut Fleur-de-Lis, but I'm still playing the 1. Since we're playing the branded engine, you have to play Fallen Albaz. I play 2 as an engine requirement, especially with Bastilles going around. And then I decided to main deck the 1 copy of Necroworld Banshee. And in tandem with that, I'm also playing the 1 copy of Zombie World. Your worst matchup is the tier limit matchup. And you'll see in the main deck that I also switched it out a couple of the floodgates because of that. But the nice thing about Zombie World is not only does it have overlap with Fluonaries, but it's also an interesting tech against tier limit. Because when they fuse, when you have this card up, they can only go for Garura. Or unless they fuse from their hand, then they can make Kikalos because everything on the field becomes zombie. And then Kikalos requires a tier limit name, and it also requires an Aqua Monster. So this was actually really nice tech and made that matchup a lot smoother and a lot easier for me. It's also really cool against Bastille because Magnemite can add back from the graveyard, and if the big target would be like Druid Worm. Problem with that is if Zombie World's face up, they can't add Druid Worm back from the graveyard to their hand, especially a lot of the decks are playing as a one-of. So it was a really cool deck. It was really good for me. And I think if you play this deck, especially now with all that stuff coming out, you have to play it in the main deck. And then for the rest of the spells, I played 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. It's just insane as deck. You can banish 6 from your extra deck for free, and then it just lets you search any piece that you're missing or any power card that you need. So it's honestly, I have to probably always play it in Eldlich. We're still playing 3 copies of Nadir Servant. Card's an insane power card. Instead of Fusion Destiny, we're playing 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Card's really insane. It does a lot for your deck. It acts as like a foolish burial for Golden Lord. Although a lot of times I noticed like if I open Branded Fusion, I would hold it for fear of Bastille cards just to see what my opponent was playing first. But card's really insane. It does a lot for your deck. And then I cut Cursed Eldland down to 2. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I think this card might actually just be optional in the Eldlich deck. It's a good card, but I feel like sometimes it conflicts more than it actually benefits. But I'm playing 2 for now, and it was good for me. I saw it when I needed it. And then for the trap cards, not a lot here has changed. Still playing 3 Sanguine, it's your best one. We're playing 3 copies of Conquistador. Best reason to play because it outs mine easily. And then 2 copies of Hakero. I know in the previous video I mentioned 3, and I still think you might be able to play 3, but for now we're just playing 2. And then for the floodgates, we're still playing 3 copies of Skill Drain. It's one of your better floodgates. Arguably, Tyramit can play under Skill Drain as well as you can, but your deck plays infinitely better, so I think it's worth playing at game 1. Instead of There Can Only Be One, we switched over to Rivalry of Warlords. The reason being is that this particular floodgate is better against the tier matchup than There Can Only Be One because they can play under that card. And it combos really, really well with Zombie World, so that's why we're playing that. And then we're still playing 2 copies of Summon Limit. I didn't see it as much in this tournament as I did in the previous one, but it's still really good. Anytime I flipped it, it was almost an immediate win. And then we're playing 3 copies of Strike still, and we're still playing 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. On to the extra deck. Since we are playing the... I had a little bit more time to actually revise the extra deck, so it's actually a lot more structured this time. But we're playing 2 copies of Albion. You're essentially playing 1 to summon, and then 1 to send realistically off of Mirrorjade. Yeah, I never need more than 2. 1 copy of Mirrorjade himself. You don't need more than 1 copy, as you can recycle it with Lubellion if needed. 1 copy of Lubellion. We didn't summon it. We summon this a lot more, actually, than you do in other branded Eldlich decks, because we are playing the copy of Necroworld Banshee, and being able to make this to send the Banshee is insane. And then 1 copy of Titaniclad. This has more overlap in the previous build because it can also be sent off Mirrorjade. to use Mirror Jade effect, and then it can also recruit your Ecclesia, so that was really cool. We are playing 2 copies of Elder Entity Intis. I wanted to play 2 in the previous profile, and I went ahead and switched it to 2, and it does come up now because now going second, you have one to send off now to your servant, and then you have a second one to send off punishment. So playing 2 is definitely the correct choice. 1 Garura. This was exchanged in place of the Farragut, being able to send this off your Nadir servant to add Dogmatica, Ecclesia, and then draw an extra card's insane. And then I did decide to play 1 Eldlich, the Mad Golden Lord. Arguably probably wouldn't play it again, as I never summoned it. But the idea is like when the card's summoned, it's still treated as Eldlich the Golden Lord, but it can't be destroyed by battle or card effect, which is kind of insane. And that's why I decided to play it. Plus, it's huge. It's 3,800 attack points, but I never summoned it, so it was better in theory than it was in actual practice. And then 1 copy of Omega to be able to send off it because the utility of it's insane. 1 copy of Link Spider. You need it for your Eldlich trap whenever you flip your golden land, so you can send it to the graveyard, so that way you can recruit Sanguine and then puts it on the board. Also turns your Dogmatica cards on. 1 copy of Lina, just in case your opponent puts something in the graveyard, let you make access code carry easier. You can just make this real easy. 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix and 1 copy of Unicorn, just utility link cards that you can link client into access code talker for game. And then 1 copy of access code talker. And then I will show the side deck since this was a case tournament. The big thing is like I said, tier limit is your hardest matchup. So you wanted to side in cards that had good tier limit matchups. So for example, like going second, I decided to side deck 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. The reason being is at the end of the day, like the main thing about your deck is you're a trap deck, right? So the idea is if you end up having to go second against your deck's already really good going first, but you're forced to go second against a tier limit player, you want to be able to draw cards that are actual blowouts going second against them. And Dimension Shifter fits the bill perfectly. And since at the core you're a trap deck, what the idea is you draw a Dimension Shifter, you play it, your opponent has to pass because they can't play under macro, and then as the turn passes to your turn, you're still under Dimension Shifter, but you're a back row deck, so you can just set your back row, then force your opponent to come to you. So it's almost like you decided to go first anyway. And every time I sided in against a tier limit player and I saw it, it did exactly what I wanted to do, and I won the game commandingly there. So I would definitely side it in this deck going forward. So there's that. We are playing the 1 copy of Pankratops. It does a lot of utility. I wasn't able to get Fenrir's in time for this event. Otherwise, I probably would have made room for Fenrir. But this card was really good. It put in a lot of work. 1 copy of Duster. Never saw it, so I couldn't tell if it was any good or not. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. I moved it to the side because I didn't know how the DABL decks would be with this card. I saw it one time and it pushed my playthrough, but I don't know if I continue to play it. We'll see. And then other cards that continue to be good against tier limit. The big thing is some of the cards in your main deck aren't good after post game 1, such like Skill Drain, because remember their deck can play under Skill Drain just like yours can. So I wanted something going first that would also have been impactful against it, and Ice Dragon's Prison basically fit the bill for that one. It's really cool because it interrupts the actual effects of the tier limit cards when they go to Fusion Summon, and it also produces body and stuff like that, and it's non-targeting removal too, which is really cool. It also deals with Rukalos really well too. 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Still, I think the best going second card we have access to right now. Card's insane. And then we also play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Again, you wanted something else that you can side going first so you don't get blown out by other blowout cards like Evenly Matched. And that was my Eldlich profile for the DABL case tournament that I played at. Arguably, I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I did. Honestly, I didn't feel like I played bad. I don't know if I'll continue to play this deck, especially after Magnificent Maven comes out, just because I'll be 100% honest with you, those cards are insane. And I don't think this deck itself personally can take advantage of those cards as well as I'd hope other decks can. Now, there is a possible way to play this with like Bestial cards, where you play like your Eldlich engine and you play the Bestial cards because they interact so well against the other decks in the format that play the Ishizu cards. So I might profile that, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I'll catch you guys in the next video for sure, and I think we're going to do a branded Despia deck, or Bistil branded I should say, because I think that deck actually has a decent shot of being good in the Ishizu format because of the Bestial cards. But thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.